Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, now this is an interesting video. I got a clip here of Jon Stewart signaling his frustration, or I'd say it's probably even jealousy at the idea that Trump won, and he won this last election with a mandate to reform government. Little left-wing propagandist Jon Stewart seems frustrated, he seems jealous, as he makes the claim that now Donald Trump and Elon Musk are supposedly going into government to enact all kinds of reforms and make the government more efficient. He's signaling his frustration and jealousy because the people that he opposes and that he doesn't trust and doesn't like are now going into government to do the things that he and his progressive buddies have, quote, always wanted to do. I find that so interesting, but mostly hypocritical. Now, apparently Trump and Elon Musk, the two individuals that he and his left-wing ilk in the media have attacked and demonized for so long, first off, are supposedly doing something great that he and his progressive buddies have always wanted to do. I find that interesting. But secondly, I find his confusion and frustration that the other side is doing the thing that he always wished that his party would do. I find this stance to be so naive and so frankly out of touch. You mean to tell me that you and your friends, your political party that's enabled the establishment, enforced the status quo for so long, you're confused that it's the other side coming in with anti-establishment reforms? These left-wingers, man. I mean, we gotta expose them to a little bit of reality here. Let me show you guys this Jon Stewart clip and let's really attack the ideas here. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so pretty much the clip is as I described. Take a look at this.
It must be such a strange thing. It is for me, for someone who has kind of complained about wanting government to be more efficient and more responsive and making fundamental changes, to see that mantle being carried out by a group of people that I don't necessarily trust to do it in a manner. That is, but I guess that's what it is when that's what losing elections is, man. You don't get to dictate anymore. You don't get to say, well, what if we did it this way? That's the beauty of it. This is in the joint custody agreement that we now have in America. It is, I guess the kids they're going to live with dad for the summer and you just got to eat it. Just, I don't want them going on the lake in the raft. And you're like, well, you're not here. You're not in charge. So you don't get to decide. And that's a tough one.
Jon Stewart seems mad. I mean, he seems big mad in this recent interview where he expresses his frustration over the idea that Donald Trump and the MAGA movement are now positioning themselves to make reforms that supposedly progressives have dreamed about for decades. Yeah, progressives have dreamed about government efficiency for decades. Okay, that's an interesting one. But now, all of a sudden, oh, Trump's going in to do all of these things that we have wanted to do. Why aren't we the ones doing them, he asks. Really? You're confused? You're jealous? But I'm asking myself the question, where has this feeling been, this outrage and this frustration, this fear of missing out over the last 16 years? Has it already been 16 years? Yeah. I mean, since 2008, the left has held the reins of American political culture. Barack Obama promised hope and change. We all remember that, right? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been in power for the last 4 years, and they were supposedly going to deliver all kinds of progressive reforms with their Democrat Congress. But what did they do? Nothing of substance for actual working class Americans. Nothing. Instead, they cozied up to the establishment, the corporate donors, and of course, big tech. John, you've had 12 of the last 16 years to do something. You've had 12 of the last 16 years as one of the biggest voices in left-wing politics to try to steer the conversation in the direction of policy reform and government efficiency, but instead all you've done is attack Republicans and play Mr. Comedian. And now you're confused why you're not in the driver's seat. Meanwhile, the MAGA movement, the movement that you've attacked and slandered for so long, well, that's an actual grassroots movement of the people born out of frustration with corruption, government overreach, and bureaucratic waste. That is the grassroots movement pushing for reforms. And the irony here is that the left, the self-proclaimed party of the people, is now angry and jealous because the people they've dismissed as deplorables are actually doing what they've failed to do. Or at least they're on the path of doing it. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. These people have their eyes closed and their ears blocked. I mean, let's just take a look at the track record here. We've got 3 names: Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK Jr. I mean, let's just go with Bernie Sanders, who's the more far-left progressive outsider who bursted on the scene back in 2016, promoting a more populist left-wing message. You know, the guy who wanted to reform government in probably Jon Stewart's exact progressive image. Well, what happened with him? He was twice sabotaged by the Democrat Party elite. In 2016 and in 2020, the DNC essentially manipulated the primary process to ensure that he would never win and that his ideas would never be popularized. Tulsi Gabbard, same thing, a decorated military veteran and former Democrat congresswoman who came in challenging the status quo, especially on the issue of the military-industrial complex. Well, she was attacked by her own party and labeled a Russian asset and essentially forced out of the party. Then we've got RFK Jr., who was forced to run as an independent after the Democrat Party openly worked to prevent a fair primary. Instead of engaging in a debate and having a fair democratic process, they rewrote the rules to essentially sideline him and pushed him out of the party. You know, these are the people who dared to step out of line, and the Democrat establishment did everything in its power to crush them. Essentially, whenever the Democrat Party has political leaders pushing reforms and challenging the status quo, they are destroyed, and talking heads like Jon Stewart and the rest of these clowns in the left-wing lamestream media never do or say anything about it. It seems almost as if they cheer it on or they enable it, and then they're confused why they're not the party of reform. No, you're the party of the elites. You're the party of the Washington status quo. You're the party of endless government waste and spending and laundering taxpayer dollars, not the party of government efficiency and making cuts to wasteful spending. No, you're the party who puts the wasteful pork spending in the bill, and then when Republicans vote against it, because you named it the "we want to save all the puppies in Gaza" bill, you're the ones who point the finger at the other side and call them a bunch of Zionist shill puppy murderers. They didn't vote for our pork-filled bill. They're racist. And now they're sitting here whining and crying. Why aren't we the ones who get to reform government? Why can't we reform government? We want to make government efficient again. Well, it's because you lost. You're on the losing team. You've sided with the establishment types, the establishment status quo types, the corrupt Washingtonites. You've essentially made your bed. You've gotten married to them. And now what? You're asking for a divorce? I think it might be a little too late. And honestly, I don't think it's genuine at all. I don't think leftoids would ever have it in them to actually make cuts and make actual efficient change in government and bureaucracy. They're just pretending as if they would and as if they're the right people for the job because it's now politically convenient and easy to do so. This isn't genuine frustration. Darn, shucks. We didn't get our chance to cut wasteful government programs. The left's anger here is not about reform, it's about control. They're mad because they lost their monopoly on the narrative. And now you got Trump, Musk, and the MAGA movement showing that real change is possible and that real change is coming. And they just want to jump on the bandwagon. They just want credit. They're just salty that they don't get to take the credit, that they're not the ones doing it. But in my view, they're just exposing themselves as the enablers of the very system that they're pretending to fight against. It's very simple. The grassroots mantle no longer belongs to the Democrats. MAGA now owns it. And the left is just salty because that means their cultural power is essentially now diminished. You guys had your chance to bring change, to bring reforms, to make people's lives better, to make government more efficient. You failed. And now please stop whining about it. And now, well, it's Donald Trump and Elon Musk's turn. I guess let's see what's gonna happen. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.